I think in real estate in general, and then this particular issue, it's going to require some type of creativity. If the VAs at least, or these different associations through these, it's a HUD program for veterans. If I can find the housing and create an affordable environment for these folks and develop the relationship with these organizations like you do if you're providing Section 8 housing, then they can feed us, the veterans, right? These are qualified veterans through housing, then it makes sense for us. So that's where the partnership comes into play.
Welcome back into the Rocc Pod, presented for the Royal Oak, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. I am John Gay from Jagging Detroit Podcasts.
I'm Lisa Bibby, your professional realtor with Keller Williams Advantage.
All right, today we have Jeff Hurlbert from Ivy Properties, commercial real estate. We want to talk to him. But before I get to the business and everything that he does, we always send sort of a questionnaire to our guests before we get them on. And Jeff had told us that he's, quote, a bit of a smartass. He also told us that he's a U.S. Marine who served in Desert Storm. Thank you for your service. And that he also came from a family of 5 sisters and 1 brother. So my first question for you, Jeff, is what made you more of a smartass, serving in the Marines or having 5 sisters?
My sisters were a good training ground for the Marine Corps, believe it or not, I think. So I survived childhood with them. So yeah, the Marine Corps was nothing.
Were they all older or younger?
3 are older and 2 are younger. So I'm number 5.
Oh, you were sandwiched right in between them all.
I am, yeah. You have to be a good negotiator.
Well, that's one good thing you've learned is negotiating skills from your sisters.
You got it.
How long were you a Marine for?
4 years. I went after high school. My focus in school was I was not focused at all in school. Sports and my social life were my priorities in high school, not school. So I needed to grow up a little bit. So
I come from the opposite side. I wish I'd had a social life in high school. So it's each his own.
So it's great to have you on, Jeff. I know when I started in this business, I started off with commercial and residential, and then just found my passion and love for the residential side of things. So it's great to have partners like you in the commercial world. And you started your company, Ivy Properties. So when did you first open your doors?
So it'll be a year on May 1st.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, literally. I formed the LLC before I moved back from Chicago. Literally, I moved into my new house here on April 30th last year. So.
Fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you started your company?
Sure. I think I started my business plan about 12 years ago. So it's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. I had a little bit of experience with a partnership about 13 years ago, doing more facility maintenance here in Detroit. And then we sold that company. So then I took that opportunity and went back to Chicago.
Were you selling real estate there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been commercial real estate literally since college, pretty much, other than a couple small detours, but primarily, yeah, my father was in commercial real estate most of his career. One of my closest sister was on the finance side. So a little bit of a family business, somewhat kind of in the blood. But really, it came down to like 3 things really for my business, why I started it. Number one was, I know people always talk about service. If you're in property management advisory services long enough, you're almost like a hired gun. So I literally have worked in my 32 years for all the big players in the market and then some smaller firms. And kind of the relationship management, especially with technology, is gone somewhat to the wayside. So that on top of wanting to move back here, wanting to kind of actually feel like I was accomplishing something for people other than just myself. And so I moved home. My network's a lot better here, more family here. And competition in Detroit, there's more folks like me. It's not as much of a institutional real estate city like Chicago was and New York and LA. So they're used to more small business people like myself. It's maybe, I'd say easier, but Detroit, as you guys know, I'm assuming you're all from here, it's kind of like a big, small town, right? Everybody seems to know everybody.
It really is.
Yeah.
Jeff, I was gonna ask you about that. What areas do you focus on here in Southeast Michigan? Do you focus on specific areas or all over?
I spent a lot of time in the city of Detroit itself,
Yep.
and I'm very intrigued with the city. Lots changed since I left. Even I've been back, obviously, to visit, but there's still a lot of opportunity there, I believe. There's a lot more hurdles you have to go through when you're dealing in the city of Detroit versus
Red tape, you mean?
Suburbs. But that also is all really contingent on relationships. And so I've really spent the first 10 months, 11 months kind of re-engaging relationships, doing things like this, doing things in the chamber. I love being part of the chamber. More of my comfort zone, kind of one-on-one, smaller groups, getting in front of people and just kind of supporting other small businesses. And that's why I like that, because it's a support group, but not just an opportunity to kind of for folks to see who you are, but it's an opportunity for us to kind of help each other. And that's been actually the best experience about this whole thing, actually. So,
Do you live in Royal Oak, Jeff?
I do, yeah.
So that would explain why you're part of the Royal Oak Chamber, even if you're doing business all over Southeast Michigan. It's such a great group.
It is. It really is. And I'm a part of a couple other small chambers as well who are great too. But the staff there, as you guys know, is very dedicated.
They're phenomenal.
I appreciate that quite a bit.
So we saw a lot of changes during the COVID period with businesses closing down. Have you seen a lot of regrowth in the commercial side of real estate with businesses reopening, or is there a lot of spaces to fill because people are working from home now?
So I think the office market is still in kind of a quagmire somewhat still. I think if you ask the quote unquote, the experts of the market, they don't know what's going on still. There's so many factors to go.
So you're saying there's opportunity here.
I think there's going to be opportunity. The values are starting to come down. And now you're seeing that especially with the office market, you're going to see below 2008 values, possibly by the end of the year for some of these assets.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
But I do want to make it clear, there are certain segments of the office market that's doing well. And that's the Class A buildings. Those are the top newer buildings. Because smart tenants, once they got out of their leases, were able to get good terms in these nicer, newer buildings. Those buildings are doing well. It's the B and C buildings, especially the C and, those buildings where I think the creativity is going to have to come into play.
And can you explain a little bit for our listeners what A, B, and C mean?
Sure.
I know we understand, but we want to make sure everybody else is on the same page.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here like, well, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So there's different definitions. I could give you the textbook definition. Sometimes Class A is also classified based off the size of the building. Personally, I don't, so if it's a 10,000 square foot building, if it's brand new, it may not be considered Class A. But if it had all the amenities that a newer building would have and maybe some other bells and whistles, I would still put that in the classification of Class A. So newer product that's got upgrades, that's got all the modern elements of a new building, those are kind of what I would call Class A. Buildings that have been around a while, a little bit older, maybe don't have all the amenities, maybe they're teetering on Class A. It's a nicer building, doesn't have the amenities, size-wise, that might be Class B. And this goes for all the classes, whether it's office, retail, or industrial. And then Class C is generally just older buildings, quality office buildings, but not a lot of amenities.
Now, do you focus more on leases in the commercial world, or are you also doing sales?
It's funny is that, when I started this a year ago, even though my background is on the finance advisory side, I'm doing sales. I've got more business on the sales side than I have even on the management right now. But most of my career, I was focused on leasing for my clients.
You're handling clients that are looking to lease a building, also looking to purchase the building outright.
You got it.
Jeff, one of the things we wanted to ask you about, you mentioned this to us in an email about a medium to longer term goal. Now you said you've just been, in this for about a year with your own business, but with your experience putting together a group of investors to create housing for homeless and underemployed veterans. Can you talk about your idea there? I'm fascinated by this.
So I had a combination of a couple of things. So when I did my maintenance business, I did it for senior care, and they were for co-op senior care for lower income housing here in the Metro Detroit area. As far as fulfillment, selfishly, it was probably the funnest time I had because of the type of folks we were dealing with. It was very personal to them. I had the ability to work with them to give them fair services, but really kind of upgrade their level of living conditions. But as you know, it's all over the news everywhere with the homeless everywhere. But being a veteran myself and also now working for myself, and it's just me. So I've kind of gone back into the veteran health system, and you can kind of see there's a lot that needs improvement. And I started to do some volunteer work locally, not necessarily with veterans, but with homeless over the wintertime. And I think there's a real need. Veterans deal with a lot of mental illness.
Sure.
So I really want to be able to provide as much of that as I can. So now I'm just trying to figure out, is it realistic?
Yes, it's realistic, and somebody like you needs to do this, especially with all of the real estate changes that are coming.
Yeah.
The biggest part of that conversation is that the veterans are the one that's going to be hurt the worst.
Yeah.
So they've got to scramble and try to figure out exactly how they're going to accommodate the VAs because they can't pay the buyer's agent commission and concessions. I mean, it's a sticky platform. So it'll be interesting to see what shakes out. And we need people like you that are creating solutions for them. And I'm excited to see all this come into fruition.
Yeah. I think in real estate in general, and then this particular issue, it's going to require some type of creativity. If the VAs at least, or these different associations through these, it's a HUD program for veterans. If I can find the housing and create an affordable environment for these folks and develop the relationship with these organizations like you do if you're providing Section 8 housing, then they can feed us, the veterans, right? These are qualified veterans through housing, then it makes sense for us. So that's where the partnership comes into play.
We do have one other question for you, Jeff. With in mind what you just said, we normally ask for guests to plug their website at the end. I think we should ask you to plug your website for anybody that wants to do commercial real estate work with you, but then also anybody who might want to contribute to this idea of yours and help out. What is the best way for people to reach you?
Phone call is always great, which is 313-643-0094, or just www.ivproperties and then RO for Royal Oak at the end because someone owned ivproperties already.com. So ivpropertiesro.com.
All right, it is time now for our fishbowl question of the day. We ask you a totally random question. Right. Lisa, would you pull our fishbowl question today, please?
Yeah, let's dig in here. All right, Jeff, if you could swap lives with one of your friends, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Probably Ed Schwartz. Ed was always, literally since fourth grade, everyone loves Ed. And he was probably the smartest one in the class. He was the most popular, but he actually one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He never discriminated with folks. I was new when I moved here, when I was 10 or 11, and his mom and his family were really good to me to this day. I mean, he's the second youngest in his family, and he runs a very successful financial service company in the area and contributed quite a bit back to people. So he's just a good guy.
You know the saying, be like Ed.
Be like Ed.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Definitely look forward to hearing more about any kind of initiatives that you start for the homeless and for the veterans. My name is Lisa Bibby. I am a realtor with Keller Williams Advantage, and I put the real back in realtor. We want you to love where you live. Questions about buying or selling? Call today. My website is soldbylisab.com. And you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Sold by Lisa B.
And before I wrap up, I just have to address one piece of cognitive dissonance that I'm having right now.
Sure.
Jeff mentioned that he was in Desert Storm, and again, we thank you for your service. And then he talked about having this career after college, 20, 30 years in here. And I'm saying, so how is that possible? Desert Storm was like 5 years ago. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no. It wasn't.
It's hard to believe. 34 years. It's been literally, I think I set foot in the desert in December of 1990. It's crazy.
Well, that's right. 1990 was like 5 years ago, wasn't it? Oh, wait, no.
Sure as heck feels like it. Yeah.
I did the same.
We're closer to 2050 than we are to 1990 right now, which blows my mind.
Well, even 2000. You said 2000. That's 24 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Before I get too depressed, let's wrap this up.
I was just talking the same conversation. I'm like, I thought felt like yesterday I was 40. I woke up the other day and I'm 55. I don't know what the heck's going on.
You don't look a day over 40, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I am John Gay from Jagged Detroit Podcast. I am the podcast guy. If you like the way this show sounds, want me to create a podcast for you or your business or your nonprofit, you can find me online at jaggeddetroit.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Rocc Pod, produced for the Royal Oak, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. For more information about the Chamber or how to get involved, you can visit royaloakchamber.com. Thanks, everyone.